Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
Hello and welcome to GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo, and can you believe it? There's only a few days left of 2019. We're about to start a new decade. And just going through these stories I'm about to tell you today, I just realized, wow, 2019 has been such a great year. There's been, so much growth, so many milestones for so many things in the country and just people. And I'm just really looking forward to more of the great things that people are going to be doing in 2020. But let's get started on today's stories. So there is now an app developed designed to help people care for other people with dementia. It's called CareZer, and it allows for caregivers to easily work as a team through a communication portal, basically. So the app is free, and users can create a profile centered around the individual with dementia, and then invite other people to join and receive notifications. So if the individual with dementia needs something, you can alert people on the app and get some help. Say as the main caregiver, you can send out a notification to other people, family, friends, whoever else is on the app for this person, and just get some help. So this was all created by a high school student, believe it or not. His name is Logan Wells from Lexington, Massachusetts. He came up with this idea when his grandmother was diagnosed with dementia when he was just 15 years old. And he could see the toll that it was taking not only on his grandmother, but also his parents. It became really hard for everyone to stay on the same track. He said that they had to have multiple group chats. So he came up with the idea for CareZer. Logan did the coding while his father Eric helped him create the original prototype and coordinate the marketing. So basically with this app, you can schedule events, confirm completed tasks, and even add a heads up, which could be the current mood of the patient or road conditions, weather, whatever the case is. This app is currently being used by over 600 families as of right now, but it looks like it's just going up from there. I think that is a pretty cool idea, and for a high school student to come up with this, definitely cool, definitely helpful for a situation like that. My next story is about a man who simply out of the kindness of his heart gave his first class seat on an airplane to an 88-year-old woman, and it made her dreams come true. So on a flight from New York, Jack and his family booked first class seats. But when he got on board, he went and found Violet, the 88-year-old woman, in economy and swapped seats with her. So Jack sat in economy directly across from the toilets, and you just didn't hear a peep out of him, says the flight attendant. The entire flight, he didn't ask for anything. He just did it out of the kindness of his heart. No one asked him to switch seats with her, and he just wanted to do it. Violet, of course, was very excited to have her dream come true, because this is something that she's always wanted to do, but never been able to afford. And Violet really wanted a selfie to prove it to her daughter what happened. But she didn't even have a phone or an email to send it to. So Leah Amy, who was the flight attendant for them, took some pictures on her phone, and she's actually sending them to Violet in the post. I just thought that was a really sweet, amazing, random act of kindness from this man named Jack. It really did make an 88-year-old's dream come true. I think we've all kind of dreamt about sitting in the first class fancy seats, but My next story is about 4 roommates who made a new friend. A new fur friend, to be exact. The 4 roommates were pretty bummed out that their landlord wouldn't allow pets, as all of them grew up around animals. So these are just like 4 men, I believe they were in their 20s, and they just moved in together. And they've always just like had dogs or animals around. And so when they found out their landlord wouldn't allow pets, they were a little bummed out about it. So that's why when the 4 of them spotted their neighbor's dog, they decided to reach out. They wrote a letter, which I'll read it to you. It says, "The other day we noticed a 4-legged friend looking at us out the window when we arrived home from work. He or she looked like the goodest boy or girl there is. If you ever need someone to walk him or her, we will gladly do so. If you ever get bored, we know you never will, but we can dream. We are more than happy to look after him or her. If you want to come over and bring him or her to brighten up our day, you are more than welcome. If you want to walk past our balcony window so we can see him or her, please do. We hope this doesn't come off too strong, but our landlord won't allow pets, and we've all grown up with animals. The adult life is a struggle without one." So the reaction that these boys got, they received a letter back addressed to the boys, and it was stamped with a paw on the back, okay? And the beginning of the letter wrote, "What a treat it was to receive your letter." So this letter was written on behalf of the dog. The dog's name is Stevie Ticks. It wrote, on the subject of treats, I like them a lot. Big ones and meaty ones and cheesy ones. Oh, sorry, where was I? I am 2 years and 4 months. I am a Shepherdor, which is a lab cross GSD. I come from Cyprus originally, but Chris and Sarah rescued me from a cage in the doggy hotel. You're right that I am the bestest girl. How did you know? I am very friendly and full of beans. I love meeting new people, and it would be great if we could be friends. I must warn you that the price of my friendship is 5 times ball throws a day and belly scratches whenever I demand them. We here understand how hard it is to find pet-friendly rentals, and life just isn't full without a dog, is it? I'd love to hang out whenever you'd fancy. Give my servant Chris a WhatsApp, and we can rearrange a time to meet up. Looking forward to meeting you, Stevie Ticks." I thought that was so cute how they responded with the dog response, and I guess Stevie's owners are now planning on inviting the boys over for dinner and beers so they can all hang out on Stevie's turf. It just takes a little bit of reaching out to get something that you want. Just reaching out to your neighbor, and now they made a new little fur friend, and they don't have to feel so lonely without a little fur buddy with them. My next story involves another letter. So it is a letter written by a 7-year-old boy, and it's changed many, many hearts. He wrote his annual letter to Santa, and when his mother found it in his backpack, she just had to share. So Blake and his mother are staying in a domestic violence shelter over Christmas. They've been living in the shelter for a little while now, and when his mother read this letter and shared it with the shelter, they decided to share this heartbreaking letter that he wrote to Santa, and it went viral. So here's what the letter says. It says, "Dear Santa, we had to leave our house. Dad was mad. We had to do all the chores. Dad gets everything he wanted. Mom said it was time to leave, and she would take us to a safer place where we don't have to be scared. I'm still nervous. I don't want to talk to the other kids. Are you still going to come this Christmas? We don't have any of our stuff here. Can you bring some chapter books, a dictionary, and a compass, and a watch? I also want a very, very, very good dad. Can you do that too? Love, Blake." Didn't that, give you chills? It gave me chills when I read that. So they had no idea that this letter was going to go viral when they shared it on the shelter's Facebook page, but it hit many people's hearts over the country, and now this shelter is getting more and more give-backs this holiday season. They've received loads of donations of holiday presents for kids staying at the shelter, of course, including what Blake asked Santa for. there's lots of kids there. The manager of the shelter said that they run into these kind of situations a lot at their shelter. The shelter serves all of the Tarrant County in the area of Dallas and Fort Worth, Texas. So there are currently 73 children living in the shelter at this time. Blake is just one of the many. So 1 in 3 women in Texas will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. So this letter going viral, I think, has really started more of a movement. They wanted to add that Blake and his mother are in no danger with this going viral. They are very safe of where they're at. The two have been in the shelter since before Thanksgiving and will be staying over the holidays. But, everyone at the shelter is just really thankful that this letter did go viral. And I'm sure Blake definitely wasn't thinking thousands and thousands of people were going to be reading his letter to Santa Claus. But it's definitely made a difference for a lot of people's lives, and such a heartbreaking, heart-wrenching story and letter. But I just thought it was nice that it did start a movement, and they did get lots of donations and probably cheered up a lot of young kids' Christmas this year. And so that's just wonderful. It is time for a break, but don't go anywhere, because when we get back, I have some more really amazing stories. The next one is about a 4-year-old girl who has proven herself to be a hero. You don't want to miss it.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So, like I said before the break, I do have a story about a 4-year-old girl who has definitely proven herself to be a hero. Her name is Isla Glazer, and she was at her home in Somerset, New Jersey, when her mother suddenly collapsed, completely unconscious. When her mother failed to open her eyes or respond at all, Isla called 911. So she was actually extremely calm on the phone, telling the dispatcher her address. And then she waited for the EMTs to arrive, and she was prepared to open the door because she had to unlock it by using a chair to reach up. Just a pretty smart young girl. So this amazing girl then kept complete calm and control as the EMTs attended to her mother. She controlled the family's 3 80-pound rescue dogs, and even kept her 2-year-old sister and twin 1-year-old brothers calm by feeding them yogurt. Talk about incredible big sister. Her brave actions definitely did not go unrecognized. She was honored with a certificate of heroism from the police department and received an official badge and a tour of the station. So I guess her mother ended up in the hospital for 4 days due to a bacterial infection, and the medics said that it was quite likely that she would not have survived if Isla didn't call 911 when she did. The 4-year-old is truly a life savior. What a brave action to keep, the dogs calm, let alone her siblings, and to call 911 and climb up on the chair to unlock the door, that is just amazing, incredible, and she saved her mother's life. So cool. So I have another story about saving people's lives. A Nebraska surgeon is helping fight medical debt by allowing patients and families to pay for their surgeries with volunteer work. So he's partnered with several local charities so that his patients can pay for their operations by community service. he launched the M25 program, where he allows his patients to select a nonprofit organization from a list of their participants, and then he designates a certain amount of volunteer hours for the patient to pay off the surgery, of course, depending on what surgery it is. I just thought this is like such a cool way. You know, a lot of people do suffer with a lot of medical debt. And people sometimes don't get the operations and surgeries that they need, because of the medical debt, or they suffer so long after their surgeries because of that. So this surgeon is doing such an incredible thing. This idea just all came to his mind after he was just so sick and tired of American patients suffering from the debilitating financial burden of medical care. And he just thought it was enough, and that he wanted to do something himself. So Jeffrey Jensen was the first patient to participate in the program in October, after he was assigned 560 volunteer hours in exchange for the surgery to fix the numbness and nerve damages in his leg. So I know 560 volunteer hours kind of sounds like a lot, but these patients are actually encouraged to like recruit family and friends to help fulfill the hours. So you don't have to do them all by yourself. Jeffrey says that the volunteer hours has actually made a huge difference in his life, though, not just the surgery. So the M25 program is just about people coming together and helping each other. You know, this surgeon is doing a amazing thing by doing these operations for people and partnering with these local charities. And then these people don't have to suffer with that medical debt, that burden of having that on you. And I think people are going to be more inclined to go get the surgeries that they need, go get the medical attention that they need, because they're able to work it off. And then just volunteering at a local charity is just so good for your own health. So you're getting the medical attention you need, the surgery, but then, yeah, like volunteering at a local charity, it's good for you. It helps your life. You know, it can give people a lot of purpose in life, and it's definitely pretty cool that you're able to recruit family and friends to help you with those volunteer hours. Now, if you're somebody struggling in the United States with finding affordable housing, things might be changing for you. So a 2-story building in India is being hailed as the largest 3D printed structure in the world. And now the developers are now using the technology to bring affordable housing to the U.S. So the building was 3D printed on site in Dubai using locally sourced materials. The completely crazy part was that this building was finished just after 2 weeks of construction. Yep, in a house after 2 weeks. The building is 6,900 square feet. The company is called Epicor. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's a San Francisco-based company responsible for the project. It only required 3 workers and a construction crane on site. Isn't that just absolutely crazy? So this is not the first building developed by this company. They made international headlines back in 2017 after they premiered a demo building at their Moscow testing facility. Not only did they finish the simplified structure in just 1 day, they also used about $10,000 in materials. So now this company hopes to debut their first permitted 3D printed U.S. home in the early 2020. The company plans to make their printers available for purchase later in 2020. So now the startup says that they will be using the same technology to build the first ever printed house in Santa Barbara County, California. The construction 3D printing technology is only at the early stages of development, but of course they were able to already improve their version to be more reliable and time efficient. So during the project, they tested and improved their own developed 3D mixture. Jennifer McGovern, president and CEO of Housing Trust Fund of Santa Barbara County, said it has become increasingly difficult and expensive to develop affordable housing, particularly in high-cost housing markets. We are excited about the potential for 3D printing to significantly lower the time and cost involved in We are excited about the potential for 3D printing to significantly lower the time and cost involved in constructing affordable housing. I'm very interested to keep on track with this and see what happens. I was watching a video of the 3D technology, and it is definitely really, really interesting and cool to watch. Only 2 weeks and 3 workers. I think a bright future for affordable housing is on its way. I have another story about a woman who saved a man's life by donating her liver, and then she even helped pay the medical bill afterwards. So Officer Carolyn Becker knew from a young age that her life mission was to serve her community, and particularly children. Carolyn is a 6-year veteran of the Broomfield, Colorado Police Department and a mother of 2 boys. She wanted to even do more after spending most of her career as a school resource officer. So back in March 2018, she signed up online to donate part of her liver to a complete stranger. She said, "If I had a kid needing an organ, I'd be in a very desperate spot to see my kid healthy again. I felt like I could help," she explained. "I had my moments where I thought, wow, I'm crazy, but this is something I was meant to do." So she donated part of her liver to a little boy named Clyde Hoffman, who was born with Alagille syndrome, a very rare genetic disorder that can affect the liver, heart, and kidneys. So luckily Clyde had a fairly active childhood until about spring of 2018, when he was having a hard time eating enough calories to even keep himself active throughout the day. He couldn't concentrate and he was always tired, so his liver was only functioning at 10%. Doctors then confirmed he obviously had a very severe liver disease and he needed a new liver soon, which is then when he was added to a wait list. The doctors had to make it very clear to Clyde and his family that if he didn't receive a transplant, he probably would not make it. But only a month later, the doctors told Clyde and his family that they found a healthy donor. The transplant was successful. As the Hoffmans focused on their son's recovery, they were just amazed at the selflessness of the donor. Mark Hoffman, his father, said he remembers on the day of Clyde's surgery, looking over to the wing of the hospital where Carolyn was having part of her liver removed and just feeling a connection with her. Carolyn felt great about what she had done, but it didn't just stop there. 7 months after the transplant, she received a letter from the medical team that performed the transplant, and it was from Clyde, the 11-year-old boy. So the first line reads, "Dear donor, thank you so much for my chance at a new life." It contained a school picture, but only with his first name on it. So Carolyn went into investigation mode and found an online fundraising page set up by the family to help with the large medical bills from his transplant and then, of course, the ongoing medical care. So that's when she had an idea. Carolyn actually stood outside with a road sign, much like you would see panhandling, and just relied on the generosity of her community to help the family out. She actually did this for a huge chunk of her summer. She would stand outside and try to raise money. She held up a sign that read, "I donated my left liver lobe to an 11-year-old stranger. Help me raise $20,000 for his transplant bill." And in just a few months, she raised $10,000 and sent it anonymously online to the family. The family actually didn't learn that it was from her until December, more than a year after the surgery. And so that's when the Hoffmans decided to make the trip to go meet Carolyn. They have a connection that will last a lifetime. Such a selfless act, and then she just went even above and beyond by helping out with the bill. Just so incredible. It is time for a break, but don't go anywhere because when we get back, I have a few stories revolving around giving back at Christmas time and just some cheerful Christmas spirit. It's only a few more days until Christmas, so share as many Christmas stories as I can. So stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So, like I said before the break, I do have some stories revolving around Christmas. So, here are some Christmas stories to end off today's episode. Jim Annis, an 80-year-old veteran from North Carolina, has made toys for children in need for the past 50 years. Crazy, 50 years. At his very own little workshop, he carves out toys just out of wood. Anything from cars, dolls, piggy banks, tractors, and fire trucks. He will sometimes get some wooden scraps from nearby owners, but everything else is out of his own pocket. An average of about $1,000 because he has to buy like the paint and wheels and other supplies, of course, for it. Jim didn't grow up with a lot, so it's just close to his heart to help out when he can, especially children. There were 5 children in his family, so it was hard to have a big Christmas. But he will be giving around 300 handmade toys to the Salvation Army of Sanford, and all of them will go to children in need. Making the toys is definitely a lot of work, he says, but it's totally worth it. I love when people ask me, how much do I get paid for making these toys? I tell them my pay is when I see the smile on kids' faces. I hope to be able to do this until my toes curl up. 50 years of making toys for children in need. I just think that is so sweet. My next one is about a dog. After spending 500 days in an animal shelter, a 5-year-old pit bull in New York is getting to go home for Christmas. She was the shelter's longest term resident, but was officially adopted by Ray Kins earlier this month. The staff at the shelter stood outside to celebrate her new home with her and said goodbye by throwing some confetti. This little pit bull, her name is Bonita, and Ray says that she couldn't be happier at her new home. It's a special Christmas for the both of us. You know, there's Christmas miracles, not just for humans, but for dogs as well. 500 days in an animal shelter, and she finally gets to go home. I just thought that was sweet. I wanted to add that in. Now, I know it's this time of year, and we all dread going to the mall. It is something that most of us have to do. I know a lot of us try to shop way ahead of time, maybe, or avoid it, or try to go at times where it's not going to be super overwhelming. But of course, that is way easier said than done. So, you know, it's usually packed with crowds. It's loud. We try to get in there and get out as fast as you can. But, like, it's Christmas. You have to buy presents. At least most people do. And it is overwhelming. I find malls at this time of year can be super overwhelming. They can also be super cheerful and happy. But crowds and loud noises and people everywhere, like, it's a lot. So, and it can definitely be a lot for children, especially. Not to mention with Santa being at the mall this time of year, you know, people are always lining up. They're wanting to go see Santa Claus, and it's super overwhelming. You know, there's lots of children, there's lots of parents and kids running around, and it's just packed. Let's just admit, we don't like going to the mall this time of year. It can be a lot for a lot of people, but especially children. So that's why 2 organizations have teamed up to make visiting Santa at the mall a more pleasant experience. So the nonprofit organization Autism Speaks and Cherry Hill Programs are holding Santa Cares days in the malls across the country. So this means that malls will open early for these events, and it'll be less busy and overwhelming. The lights will be dimmed and even the music lowered. So children can have their time with Santa in a calmer, more relaxed setting, especially kids with autism. It can be super overwhelming this time of year. So they set this up for they can go visit Santa and enjoy it, and not feel overwhelmed. 'Cause it's loud, it's busy. And even the Santa that is working is trained to interact with special needs children. So that's something that these two organizations have put together so that children can go enjoy it. And I think that's really important because children get super excited to go see Santa Claus. But it's unfortunate, the crowds and the amount of people, the noise, the lights, it can be very overwhelming for a lot of people. So I just thought that was really neat that they decided to do that, open the mall early. Such a smart idea. So Michael Esmond from Gulf Breeze, Florida, he once spent Christmas without gas, and now he has paid off the dues of 36 families at risk of losing power this Christmas season. So when he received his utility bill, it put his mind back right to the 80s when he was struggling to make ends meet. So that's when he decided that this year he would pay more families' bills that were having trouble keeping their power on in his community. Any family that was at risk of their utilities being disconnected, he simply just paid their bill. The year that he wasn't able to pay his gas bill turned out to be one of the coldest winters in history. And he just didn't want other people to go through something like that as well. So instead of families receiving a warning letter for their power, they received holiday cards saying that their past due bills have been paid off. Talk about a selfless act, going back to something that touched really close to your own heart. If you had to deal with that as a young kid or grown up and you're not able to pay your bills, and now just paying it forward when you do have the means to do that for others. A lot of families do struggle with that, and I just thought that was such a selfless, caring, give back story to help others in need this Christmas season so that they can enjoy this holiday with their family and friends in their home, their heated home with all their Christmas lights on. And it's a beautiful gift because that's a lot of stress to not be able to pay your bills and the potential of that being shut down over Christmas. Can't even imagine. And to finish off today's episode, I thought I would add this touchwarming story about a devoted son who was able to surprise his Christmas-obsessed mother with something that she's always dreamt of, which was a giant handmade sleigh to put in her front yard for the Christmas season. And he was able to pull this off just 2 weeks before his mother passed away. So 51-year-old Jeffrey Michaels secretly constructed the massive carriage as a birthday surprise for his 80-year-old mother, Rita. This was back in October. She just adored Christmas so much. It was her favorite time of the year. She decorated her home so festive. It was huge for her. It was huge for the family. And Jeffrey is actually a former Hollywood set designer, and he now lives in Nevada. So he flew home from Vegas, snuck into her garage to build the holiday structure before she had any idea that he was even in town. Talk about being sneaky. She just always wanted a big Santa, sleigh in her yard. And so this was the year, I guess, he finally decided to go ahead and just build one for her. I saw the image of this sleigh, and it is incredible. It is so cool. This is just something that she's always dreamt of. She had no idea that her son was even in town and making this. He was staying at his sister's house, and he was just working in his mother's garage, actually. So it's an 8x4 foot structure out of birch wood. It's painted red and gold, and it's a 2-person sleigh. It actually only cost him $300 in material, and it's even pulled by a horse, and the horse is kind of white and gray. It's super cool. He says that while reindeers pull Santa's sleigh at Christmas, he surmises that horses take over the task for the rest of the year. So Michael finished the sleigh, and the family threw her a surprise party for her 80th birthday. And that's when he was able to unveil the sleigh in her front yard. So he just put it in the front yard and told her to come outside. And she was just so happy, so shocked, ecstatic. She was just so proud of it. You know, I guess she was calling everybody to just tell everybody about her sleigh. She just loved it so, so much. Unfortunately, after her son unveiled the surprise, she passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack. It was only a couple weeks after. So after his mother's death, Michael says the sleigh has become even more important to the family. It was just something that was, you know, crazy how the universe works and the timing. You know, he made the sleigh, and shortly after she passed away, but, you know, at least she got her dream sleigh in her front yard that she's always wanted. And now that's something that the family can really look back on and hold special in their hearts. He said something special happened with that sleigh itself. After we lost my mother, it has taken on its own identity. It's still sitting in the front yard of the house, and people come by to have their pictures taken with it. One of the things my mother wanted was for families to take pictures with the sleigh, and that's exactly what's happening. So he was able to really make his mother's dreams come true just in time. He believes that he was meant to make the sleigh just before she passed away, though she had been talking about the sleigh for many years. You know, this year he just finally decided to do it for her, and he's just so happy that he saw it before she was gone. So, you know, it's a little sad that she passed away, but I just think it's so beautiful, everything for him to do that, and now they have this great memory of this Christmas sleigh in their yard that they will never forget. He says that the sleigh it's about Rita's love of Christmas and the spirit of giving. And that's why I wanted to end with this note, because, you know, Christmas is the spirit of giving. It's that time where we all give back. You know, we go out of our way to help other people, and it's just a beautiful time of year. It's a beautiful season for that. The love of Christmas just sparks so much light in so many people's lives. So on that note, it is only a couple days till Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. I hope everyone enjoys their time with their family and friends and spends their time giving back and being kind to one another, not just at this particular time of year, but all the time. As always, thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and follow us on social media, and leave a 5-star review. I look forward to telling you more amazing stories soon. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news, and even weird news, the GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast.